So this one might piss some of you off. So it's BD. I know many of you guys are interested in looking good with your shirt off. And guys are in general are just obsessed with stats, right? So like, what's your bench press? How tall are you? What's your body fat? It's basically an easy way to make us or figure out how we line up with each other, right? So that guy's strong, that guy's tall, that guy's lean. Are they better than you is really what you're trying to figure out. But the issue with body fat compared to, say, strength and height is that it's not a linear calculation. It is solely appearance based in most cases, right? And many factors can go into altering one's appearance, thus changing someone's perceived perception of body fat. Now, this is not like a fat apology video. If you're obese, get in shape. It's not difficult, but I don't want people overworking themselves up over a estimate more than anything. Since they are estimates, they are inaccurate by definition. The only way we can get in an accurate account of body fat is by flaying you and then stripping off every smidge of fat on your body, piling it up, and then doing it to your organs as well. Obviously, you want to live. So the best we can do is these estimates. The more accurate ones are the machine. So you have hydrostatic weighing and DEXA are the two that come to mind. So hydrostatic weighting is when they basically weigh you underwater, and after all your air leaves, they can test out your buoyancy, and that's going to give them an estimate on how fat you are. And then DEXA scans just does magnetic waves to read your body composition, essentially. Now, these machines are somewhat accurate, okay? So they're between 2.5% either way. That means they could get you 2% leaner or 2% fatter than you really are. If you are over 200 pounds, that's upwards of 5 pounds that it can swing either way. If the machine is not calibrated correctly, it could be even larger. So best case scenario is 2.5% plus or minus. And then you have your standard at home test. So then at home you have your smart scales, you have the calipers you can do on yourself. My God, I can't speak today. And then you have the Navy method, which is just measuring your neck and waist and then figuring out the ratio based off your height. Now, these have a 5 to 10% margin of error as well. The more consistent you are with them, the better results you get with tracking. So if you use a body fat scale and report that, you probably will get some shit online just because I have a reputation for being inaccurate. However, they are consistent in their inaccuracy usually. My own only fluctuates 2%. And that depends on my water retention at that time. So they are a useful tool, but again, they're technically not accurate. So if the machines aren't accurate, the at-home methods aren't accurate, what is? A lot of people will say the best way to do it is visual, and that's utter nonsense. And I'm going to go into a few methods or a few reasons why right now. But essentially, based off of your hormones, electrolytes, which will then in turn affect your water weight, you will have a dramatically different look to your body depending on that. So let's say you crack a few beers one night and eat a whole bunch of bar food, your estrogen's going to spike, you're going to be overloaded with sodium, and you're going to be a watery mess for the next couple days. If you took a picture the next morning, it would look like you gained 20 pounds overnight. So then let's say you work off this water weight, you sweat your ass off for 3 days, and you're back to your normal looking self. Did you actually lose fat? No. So obviously a one-time visual estimate can paint a completely different picture for a variety of factors. Just based off of the shit you ate in the last week can affect you the next week because your sodium's out of balance. You could be bloated because of this, and it just keeps spiraling down from there. Got a bunch of different things that can affect how your body fat is perceived. First and foremost is body fat distribution. Where you store your fat will have a big impact on your overall appearance. I'm going to assume most of you are either front dominant or side dominant in your fat distribution, as that's what a typical man would do. So that would be the difference between gut and love handles. But a lucky few guys will store their fat, say in their upper back and upper thighs. Therefore, they'll have their abs show at exceptionally high body fat percentages, like 17 to 20%, but their legs look like crap. And since your upper back is one of those places you really look, if you're wearing a shirt like this, your traps look huge. And then that would even amplify their tiny waist because of it, because their shoulders technically look bigger, but their waistline is oddly small in comparison. If you are like me and store most of your fat in the front of your body, so you get man boobs relatively easily along with a gut, there is a good chance your abs will not there's a good chance your abs will not fully show until about 12% to 10% body fat, and even extreme cases it won't even be below 10% body fat, which is totally normal, by the way. 1/3 of guys are probably built like this, especially from colder climates, because that fat distribution kept your organs warm. And let's say you store your fat in your hips and obliques more, you could have abs at, say, around 15% body fat, but you'll have love handles at, say, 17 to 20% body fat. Everybody has these trouble areas, but some of these trouble areas are much more desirable than others. Now, this kind of goes along the point that back in my day, when I was like 15, 16, if you had abs, you were 10% body fat. That was the common term. Now, I've seen it keep creeping up, and now it's about 15 to even 17% body fat you need to have abs. And that is because, one, people are unduly hard on themselves for no reason. Two, influencers lie about their body fat percentage because they want to make sure it doesn't seem like they are using anabolic substances. Three, they are continuously comparing themselves to freaks on Instagram, thinking that these dudes reporting 15 to 17% body fat with abs is the norm, when it most likely is not. Muscle maturity. Basically, this term just means how big your muscles are, because it just takes time to build up muscle mass. So the bigger your muscles are, the more noticeable they are under a layer of fat, therefore creating bigger grooves for the fat to fill in, and then your shoulders will pop out more at higher body fat. Same goes for abs, but is less apparent depending on your own body fat. So let's say you have a string bean that's like 10% body fat, 160 pounds. But at the same time, you can have a guy that's 220 pounds, 10% body fat, and they look completely different because their muscles are pushing out on their fat completely differently. The string bean's gonna still look like he doesn't even lift, and then the 220 pound guy is gonna look like a bodybuilder. So obviously that is probably the second most important thing when it comes to visual body fat estimates, is muscle maturity. If you want to think about it mathematically, if you're a 200 pound guy with 40 pounds of fat, so 160 pounds lean mass, 40 pounds of fat, you gained 20 pounds of mass, lean mass. We're not even going to say you gained any fat. Your ratio just went down 1 to 2%. You technically didn't lose any body fat, but your ratio went down. Furthermore, that muscle mass that you just put on will push your veins closer to the surface, making you appear more vascular in the process. So yes, technically you did get leaner, but you didn't lose any fat in the process, and with the appearance of more vascularity and muscle separation, you're going to look even leaner than you were at 200 compared to 220 now. Muscle insertions, basically how close your muscles sit together. Depending on where your tendons connect on your arm, for example, will have a drastically different change in how fat sits. So let's say your bicep tendon is 1 to 2 centimeters shorter than average. You're going to have a much bigger gap between your shoulder and bicep. Therefore, your shoulders will look more capped, and there will be less or more space for body fat to sit. So if you have these longer tendons, shorter muscle bellies, you can technically look leaner at a different body fat percentage just because the gap between the muscle is bigger. Therefore, you'll have more muscle separation. On top of that, biceps, you want to have relatively shorter muscle bellies because then they peak when you flex. I have pretty long muscle belly, so I'm not a good example for this. So that would make your bicep look even bigger, therefore changing your visual appearance of body fat. Then let's say you have short back ligaments, short lat muscle bellies. So instead of them going halfway down your back, they stop to about here, and you get bat wings when you flex. That's going to make your waist look smaller when posing, therefore changing how your body fat appears. And then more importantly, since we are in ab dominant culture currently, your oblique and ab insertions. So I'm assuming most of you guys understand what a six-pack is, but some guys will not have a six-pack. They'll have less tendon, what are they called? Can't remember the exact term what they are. They're tendon-like structures that actually create the divots in your six-pack or abs. Essentially, that is there so when you lean over, your stomach can curl in instead of bulge out. So that's the point of six-packs. They're not just for aesthetics. There's actually a reason we have these mutations there. So if you're built like me, your linea alba does not go past your belly button, and that's normal. But some guys literally will have it down to their junk. That's an exaggeration, but I think you get my point. And then that's how we can actually get 8-packs, because they have a mutation that goes down past their belly button. And then the depth of your ab-like tendons, so that what gives you the actual six-pack, will drastically change how your abs look. And then they can be asymmetrical and everything like that. But if you don't have like thick bands and a lot of muscle separation and maturity down there, you're not gonna have great abs, therefore impacting how you look visually. Bone size. If you literally have big bones, you can support more weight in general. Makes sense. So this allows your body fat to actually blend more as your muscles get bigger, because your joints are bigger. Therefore, it doesn't necessarily kind of fan inwards, right? And this is more of an actual benefit to if you have big bones, you can support more muscle mass, and then with that added muscle mass, you can fill in that space between your muscles with more fat without looking obese, essentially. That's why when people say you carry your weight well, it's kind of a backhanded compliment, saying, oh, you're fat, but you don't look it. I used to get that a lot. I probably still do get it a decent bit. Skeletal shape. The main thing is rib cage and hip size, as well as shoulder size, but that's more dependent on your ribs. A wide rib cage makes your waist appear smaller. Therefore, your gut will look smaller when you're facing the camera, but when you're turned to the side, you might have a gut because your organs need to go somewhere. And when I say gut, I just mean protrusion, not necessarily like a flab of fat. A deep rib cage like myself will make your waist look bigger because you're comparing it to technically less mass when you're facing the camera, but your gut is more formed to that shape, so therefore it is easier to hide your body fat. And then wide shoulders are just a boost in appearance in general. If you have wide shoulders, you look better, you look more intimidating, your waist looks smaller in comparison. And then wide hips make your waist look bigger in general. The thing is you have a big rib cage, you're probably gonna have big hips as well. It is pretty uncommon to have big rib cage, big shoulders, tiny waist, and that's what you're gonna see with most professional physique competitors. So IFBB Pro physique division. So like Chris Bumstead. He has a stupid tiny waist or stupid tiny hips compared to his shoulders. If you look at him, it's like he's structurally unsound, but that's besides the point. Skin thickness. The average male skin can range from 0.6 millimeters in depth to 2.5 millimeters. And this excludes body fat. With body fat, with body fat calipers, this can actually swing the estimate a decent bit. Additionally, the amount of vascularity you need to like poke through the skin is lower because that skin is applying less pressure and less thick. So think of it as a double wrap of saran wrap versus a single wrap of saran wrap. You can see through the double wrap as well as a single wrap. Okay, better analogy. It's like wearing two shirts. If a single shirt would be like someone wearing or someone having thin skin. You can still see the contours of their body through it, but if you put on two shirts or even three shirts, you won't see anything under it. It'll just look like a thick vest, essentially. It's kind of the same idea. Vein depth. How deep your veins sit below your skin will also determine how vascular you are. It's only a couple millimeters at most, like the difference. But if you have thick skin and deep veins at the same time, it's going to be difficult to look vascular unless you are below 12% body fat. Body hair. Not just the thicker dark hair like chest hair, but like the thin white wispy ones that you can grow on your arms and stuff will diffuse light and therefore making it harder for these hard shadows to cast, therefore causing a drop in shredded look. Yes, very scientific. Essentially, if you have a bunch of little white hairs all over your body, your silhouette will then become fuzzy as well because that light's refracting. And then the most important thing that you really can't control, or that's out of the control of your body, is lighting. This can take you from looking freaky to looking like you don't even lift. Essentially, you have two different types of lighting. You have hard lighting and soft lighting. Hard lighting comes from a narrow single source, so the lack of spread creates hard shadows. And then soft lighting is the I could kill her. Soft lighting is the opposite. It tries to remove shadows as much as possible, so it's these big box lights. Or the sun. The sun's actually the best soft shadow source. But anyway, these are, again, they are usually box lights. So they're usually box lights or a large array of lights around the entire set. And additionally, lights from above give a harder downcast shadow, and that's what actually makes you look shredded. If you shine a light directly on someone's abs, unless they are ultra lean, they will look like crap, essentially, because you're basically blurring out any form of definition in their abs. So basically, something that is not even a part of your body can swing your visual appearance of body fat by 10%. That's the main reason visual estimates can fall short. These guys on Reddit aren't art majors, they are not taking lighting into account. Posing. First, most guys are flexing their abs in any picture, right? Because if you're posting it online, you want to look your best. They'll say this is relaxed, but they're not relaxed. Let's be real. Like, let's be realistic. Is your stomach sitting tight to your rib cage every time you speak? Because I'm doing it right now and it's kind of hard, right? So if you don't know that, comparing yourself to these influencers or these posers, if you will, you're going to get the wrong idea of what body fat percentage looks like. And abs flexed look much more noticeable, shredded, lean, whatever, when flexed than when relaxed. Me at above between 15 and 20% body fat, if I don't flex, I look kinda average. And I'm assuming most guys are in the same ballpark, unless they're one of these genetic freaks that you see on Instagram. Second, if you have poor posture, so you sit like this, your man boobs sit kind of fold forward, your stomach pouches, you're gonna look like 10 pounds fatter than you really are. And I touched on this in the beginning. Water retention. If you hold a lot of water because of bad diet or out of balance hormones, like your estrogen spiked because you drank way too many beers, you will look bloated, your skin will be puffy, and hiding all the vascularity that you have. Your water weight can swing dramatically. Anywhere from 4 pounds to 20 pounds depending on your body fat and then your own aptitude to hold water. When I first start cutting, I lose literally 8 pounds in the first week because that's just water weight dropping from drop in sodium and then a drop in carbs. So between 4 to 20 pounds, that is the equivalent to 1/2 to 2.5 gallons of water. Okay, like when I drop my water weight, when my water weight breaks, I go to the bathroom like 3 to 4 times that night. It's awful. For my European guys, that's like 2 kilos, 10 kilos, or 2 liters, 10 liters of water. So with all these possible variables that I just laid out, and there's more that I thought of, but I kind of just getting tired of talking about it, your perceived body fat can dramatically vary. Like 5 to 10% on the given day. Change the lighting, boom, you look obese. If you had great lighting beforehand, and then you went out on a rager, took the same picture outside, like, you're gonna look like a completely different man. So basically, after laying that all out for you, there is no good way to track body fat. However, I still think you should track body fat, not by asking for visual estimates from guys on Reddit and Instagram and whatever, but with the Navy method. That's an easy one. That's where you just put it around the thickest point of your waist and around your neck and put your height and weight in, and they'll give you a decent estimate. And then use a body fat scale to keep yourself accountable. This will be the best way to actually track your progress. Yes, it may be inaccurate, but it will be consistently inaccurate. So if it's off 3% the entire time you're losing fat, then you can still be certain that you lost, say, 5% body fat in the past 10 weeks. Sure, you may not end up being 10%, but being 13% at the end of it. But does it really matter? You still made all that progress. So yeah, it's inaccurate, but it's consistently inaccurate. It's good data, essentially. And besides, if you look at like chemistry beakers, most of them have a variance of plus or minus 2.5%. If you can fall within that range, you are scientifically sound, technically. You're not going to get that with the at-home tools, but it's still a good starting point, right? All right. Now, this is going to have to be a two-parter. I want to talk about how to actually go about thinking about leanness and fitness and all that stuff when it comes to body fat. Because if you obsess over a number that can change depending on who's looking at it and how you're measuring it, you're going to drive yourself nuts. I fell into this trap many times, and I think there's a healthier, more manageable way to go about this. So if I sounded a little more heated than usual, this is a culmination of 6 months of people arguing with me over my own body. Yes, I know I don't look exceptionally lean, and yes, I can be wrong. I'll totally admit it. But the thing is like, for some reason, Pittsburgh doesn't have any DEXA scan for me to actually track this, like, scientifically speaking. So if I go anywhere, I have to go to 200 miles out from where I live currently. I don't want to do that just yet. So I got to make it worthwhile. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to try to do another video explaining my own thought process on visually estimating body fat. And I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you learned something. I hope you go easier on yourself. That's a whole nother can of worms that we need to talk about when it comes to body fat and all this junk. My camera's about to time out, so this is BD signing off.